is. And I think, you know, Kemi is having a very honest conversation with the country. She is saying to them that there are hard messages that we need to think about. We have to accept that despite best efforts to try and reduce the numbers of people coming into the country, the figures did go up. And we have to be honest about that and be honest about mistakes that were made. What Kemi is doing now is making sure that everybody knows that the policies that we want to bring in to reduce immigration to the country, this is the start of it, and this is about the fact that actually the government are introducing a bill on Monday, and we're going to use these policies as amendments that we will put into that bill to try and make that bill even stronger and achieve the aim of reducing the numbers coming into the UK.
But you haven't set a target on...
No, we're saying there will be a target.
OK.
But it's really important, I think, that we have a set of policies that ensure that when people are coming to this country, they're contributing to our country. That's really important, because if we don't tackle this, the burden on our public services, on our social housing, is just going to increase and increase.
Right. But
sorry, Jo, could I just come in here? Because I want to make 2 points. The first is that this is, in effect, an anti-integration measure. This is very far from where the public is. If you poll the public, 2/3 of them say they want migrants that come and settle and integrate into their communities. What you're doing is making it harder for people to come here and lay down those roots. They're more likely to be transient and temporary. That's a bad thing. The second thing is I do want to address this issue of the so-called burden on public services that Kemi Badenoch also made in her remarks. Because at the end of last year, we lost my younger sibling. And before they passed away, they actually spent time in NHS care. And so many of the people who looked after them, from the doctors to the nurses to the administrators to the cleaning staff, were people that weren't born in this country. And I just think when so many people across the world struggle to access healthcare, education, affordable housing, care for the elderly, childcare, what a privilege to live in a country where people want to come and contribute to our public services, to our construction workforce, to our food services. You know, I don't see this as a sign of British weakness. I see it as a sign of British strength.
Very sorry for your loss. Stuart, would you like to respond?
Likewise. And, you know, and look, I used to work in the hospice movement. I know exactly how much we rely on all sorts of people helping run those incredibly important services. But they're the very people who are contributing to our society. They are earning a wage. They are paying their taxes. Absolutely, that is absolutely credible and what we expect to see. That is why we're saying, you know, that 10-year period, you can show that you are bringing a positive contribution to this country. But if you're not, then, you know, we have to be honest with the public that we can't keep on going like this. The numbers will just get too high.
What do you mean a net contributor then?
So if you're paying your taxes, you're paying your own way in life. That is something that I think we all want to see happen. And there are people in this country who can't get their social housing because there are huge demands on that. So this is being absolutely upfront with the public, saying to them, these are the conditions. And if you go to other countries, if you wanted to move to another country, they will often have exactly the same rules, that you have to prove that you are going to, you know, economically contribute to the country that you want to live in. Right. You can sustain your own life. Well, that is not, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Well, Jim, let me get your reaction and then we'll come back to the specifics around integration.
Well, I feel this is a pretty desperate attempt by an opposition leader who's failing to really register with the public at all to try and make herself relevant. I think it's an attempt to atone for 14 years in which we've had virtually an open border policy because people have arrived, particularly post-Brexit, arrived in much greater numbers than the government ever promised. 1 million people arriving net migration in the final year of the Conservative government. And much of what Kemi Badenoch has talked about, actually, there's very little substance to it. It's not going to stop people coming. We already have rules where, for instance, if you breach your visa conditions, you can be removed. If you give false information in your pursuit of an application for indefinite leave to remain, you can also have your status revoked.
But isn't this about both? Isn't this about the government and the opposition running scared of the political threat from reform? I mean, a number of Labour MPs, a number of your colleagues, the so-called Red Wall caucus, want Labour to be more vocal about immigration as a way of neutralising that threat. They are pressurising Number 10 to deal, as they see it, with immigration.
No, we're not running scared at all. It's about having clear rules, which we have, and then enforcing them. So, for instance, in the 6 months since Labour was elected, 16,500 people have been put on deportation flights who have no right to be here. So let's make that absolutely clear. We're processing asylum seeker applications much more quickly. We're looking to do a lot of work to smash the gangs which are resulting in the small boat crossings. It's actually about having a government that gets on with enforcing what's already there rather than thinking up new and elaborate ways to sound tough on this issue.
Annabelle?
I think it's an important and substantive measure that Kemi Badenoch has announced today. It shouldn't be controversial to expect people who are coming here to be net contributors. And unfortunately, in the 2022-23 wave, only around 5% of people who came to Britain to live and to work are believed to have paid in to the state more than they took out. Unfortunately, it's simply not financially sustainable for us to continue to have very large waves of people who are coming here who are not going to be net contributors. The post-Brexit immigration system that was introduced by Boris Johnson has been a complete disaster in economic terms, and anything that we're able to do to try and row back from that and to move towards a system that is a lot more selective about, and one that helps us attract the best and brightest to Britain to come here and to work and to contribute and to pay their taxes, is the one that we should be moving towards. And it really is not unreasonable to say these things.
Yeah, I think unfortunately multiple panellists are drawing a bit of a false distinction here between this idea of kind of the contributor and the non-contributor. The first thing I'd say is that the majority of migrants are here with no recourse to public funds until they get indefinite leave to remain. That means they cannot access public benefits, so they have to work. Unfortunately, I think this myth spreads that there are many migrants who don't come and work because people look at the visas that are granted and they say, well, if the visa has work in the title, it means they're working. But if they come as dependents, for example, then they're not. But dependents work, students work because they have to, because they cannot get benefits. And in the same way that if you were a British family with a single wage earner and that wage earner was low paid, as you know, many people are claiming these migrants are coming there doing these really low paid, low skilled jobs, a British family couldn't make that maths add up to have just one earner supporting all of their dependents, students who come here. These people are working, they are contributing. And the fact is, the evidence shows that even when they come here and start on low incomes, those incomes catch up with the median earnings of the British population in general. I would also just point out that Kemi Badenoch herself is an example of someone who came to this country and flipped burgers at McDonald's and now holds high office as the leader of the opposition. So I don't think that we should foreclose the idea that people can start off in one particular life path when they come to this country and end up in another.
Annabelle?
The Office for Budget Responsibility recently modelled the profile of a low-skilled worker coming to Britain, low-skilled migrant coming to Britain, and estimated that if they arrived here at age 25, then by the age of 81, they will have cost the Exchequer £450 or around £450,000 over the course of their lifetime. Now, you just have to wonder how sustainable that is. Perhaps if we are able to grow the economy and perhaps if we're able to attract a sufficient number of extremely high-skilled migrants here, then we might look towards a more relaxed system down the line. But that certainly isn't, simply not in the fiscal position.
But what about the number of people who work in the care sector, for example? They may not be low skilled, but they are low paid.
And people who come here to work in care often get immediate access to public services as well. They don't have that 5-year delay. Now, again, this is a product of the post-Brexit visa regime that was introduced under the last Conservative administration, which has been very problematic. I think what we need to do, just to your point, Joe, is increase wages in the social care sector so that we're able to attract more people who are here in Britain already into those roles, which currently they're simply not willing to do.
I absolutely agree with you on that. I think what we need to do is boost our investment in skills so that we can actually, as it were, grow our own, ensure that people in the care sector, for instance, they're upskilled, it's a decent career pathway, people are given the training they need to do the job well, and then if we've got UK citizens doing that, we don't need to have them on the protected occupations list and give people visas to come in. And I'm very pleased that one of the things the government's doing is creating Skills England, looking to invest more in skills so that we can grow these sectors, increase the number of apprenticeships which had fallen very badly, so that we actually don't need to have people coming from other parts of the world to do jobs that people in the UK could very happily do.